All right, welcome to our channel. My name is Jay. I'm the owner of Section8Consulting.com. And today we're going to be making a new series of videos to teach you guys from A to Z every known process to get through from the beginning of becoming a Section 8 landlord all the way down to investment, marketing, and all that you need to know. And it costs nothing. This is in lieu of and in response to many of these videos that I've seen on YouTube. These guys are out there as house flippers and investors. These guys are not real Section 8 consultants, and these programs you guys are buying, as well as these training programs, are all nonsense, okay? That's not what you need. You need a real consultant you can actually speak to from a real company that's registered with the state, okay? I warned you against that. I just had a lady contact our office, was ripped off for a little over $5,000. It doesn't cost anywhere near that. A good consultant for a month will give you a phone access to them probably for about $1,000, a little bit more if you're a pretty large investment group and you have a lot in your portfolio, okay? So let's get on with this. I'm going to take you through a little tour of our website. You can see me here. That's Section8Consulting.com. Now, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to take you over to a free Weebly subdomain. I created this because I can't call the web developer every day to update this, so this is something easy that I can do. So I'm going to take you here to our landlord section. I'm going to post the links down below and in the comments section for you guys. That way you can track everything going on here, and also I will link up videos. So as you can see, Section 8 Landlord Simplified Step-by-Step Guide. And this is going to probably take a while to get through all the information you guys are going to need, and there's a lot of extra. So first in that process, look guys, you're going to need to connect with small area market rents or fair market rents. And I've linked you up below and given you some directions. That is the federal guideline directly issued by HUD that's going to tell you the maximum amount that your zip code, if you were to invest in my house, that would be the maximum amount that you could probably get. It does not mean you're guaranteed that, okay? Now, secondary in this research that you're going to be looking at is figuring out who the housing authority is in your county. So if you're looking around the nation and you're looking at fair market rents and you're sorting them by the highest payment standards, okay, the highest fair market rates, then you're probably zeroed down to about 25 really high-paying zip codes. From there, you need to establish the housing authority, which I've given some simple directions down here, and you go directly to HUD's website. We don't link you up with a bunch of scams, okay? Everything that we're going to be referencing will be from the U.S. government or the PHA or Public Housing Authority. So determining the housing authority, once you figure out who it is, then all you would need to do at that point is do a simple Google search once you know the name of the housing authority, and then add the words payment standard to the end. Now, payment standards are published by the housing authority. And remember, we have fair market rents, okay? That's by the feds, the maximum line, and then the housing authorities determine their budget, which may show different numbers, okay? And this is typically what they're going to issue in terms of vouchers. So if Mary applies, she wins her voucher, and they give a payment standard, you can bet that the payment standards follow pretty closely to what you would likely get in that zip code. But further research is required, guys, because a lot of you guys jump head in first, and then you end up in a bad investment where you can't get the amount of rent you're looking for. So next thing we need to look at is half-mile comparables. And in the industry, we call that half-mile comps. And that is a circumstance where you visit Zillow. And the reason I'm going to recommend Zillow is because you're able to look at comparable rents. You find a good investment in a neighborhood, you need to be looking on that street at any rents that are available that are comparable to what you have. Comparable means 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, or 3-bedroom, 2-bath, something very near that. Now that you have comparables, you have a third level of research on this, okay? But still, that's not sufficient here. You got to go down and do a fourth task, and that would be average market rents. So if you follow the link I've given down here at the bottom, you go into Zillow, and most housing authorities are lazy. So what you're trying to do is determine about what the housing authority is going to allow for rent when they do a housing quality inspection. If the average rents for that zip code are $2,800, then you can bet that what they're actually going to allow for that property is going to be pretty close to that. But there's one final step that I'm going to list on here that I've not done so yet, and that would be most housing authorities, if you've already done your preliminary research, you looked at all the numbers. Remember, you could skip all the way to the last two steps, but it wouldn't be of value because you need the first step. That way you can look at already at the federal level what zip codes are paying the most, and then you're working your way. What you're doing is you're whittling this down so you can get as close as possible. So your fifth and final step would be actually contacting the housing authority, or PHA, Public Housing Authority, and in many cases they've already dealt with many of the addresses. So most of them will tell you up front what they're willing to pay for that property without a housing quality inspection. If they don't, then I can tell you almost 90% of the time, the average market rents on Zillow are pretty much going to be the price guideline for that zip code. The only way it's going to go up or down is if your comparables are bad, okay? Now, I want to make one other thing clear to you. Just because you go buy a mechanical guide to your car doesn't mean you can change the transmission. The goal here is to give you quick, informative information so you don't have to pay a bunch of scammers across YouTube that are not consultants for a bunch of programs where you get ripped off. This is how you do it, okay? This is the same philosophy we follow whether we're dealing with landlords that are doing $50 million out in California, or even the most recent landlord we took on, and we're doing roughly 50 houses. And so in this circumstance, you've got to get this preliminary information ready, but there's a lot more to be considered. That's why, like I said, it'll be between 30 to 50 videos, because there's a whole spectrum of things not being covered. The reason it's not being covered is people that flip houses and do investments, they only know it from the perspective of how they did it. They don't actually know the whole process because they've never tried it. Also, our channel's been around 15 years, and so a lot of what you see out there is been parsed out of many of the many videos I've made, and now these guys have turned it into a quick cash machine. I'm telling you guys to be very, very wary of any company that publishes some neat-looking website with no address. And in one case, we even had a company that actually gave themselves their own name, and then on their receipts they put our LLC. We ended up in a battle with the state attorney general's office. Guys, I'm telling you, if you're going to do this, first view these videos. Second, reach out to a real consultant. It doesn't have to be my office, but getting advice from a local investor or house flipper is not a good idea. One, their focus is very limited. They're only going to know their area. And let me tell you, every area of the country is going to have a different pressure. Okay. Also, you don't have market density research. You don't know what the saturation level is for vouchers. There's a lot of things to be considered here. That way, before you spend one copper penny on investing, you have the whole picture, not just how some house flipper decided he's done his system and that's how he wants it to work out. There's a lot they don't know, and so to cut all this nonsense out and make it an open and free market, I'm going to publish every detail about it for you guys. And then if you still have questions after that, you can reach out to our office. I really enjoyed talking with you. And again, I'm not trying to hurt or injure anybody's reputation as a house flipper or investor or real estate agent. But the reality of it is, if you're not hiring an actual real Section 8 consultant, then you're probably not going to get all the information you really need, okay? And buying training programs isn't going to do jack. You need somebody you can talk to day to day that can work with you verbally, on the phone, and by email to get you through the whole process. Somebody's going to hold your hand and help you mitigate risk. Not jumping in some program where you're reading a bunch of information, watching some videos, and you're allowed one 30-minute call. That's not how you do it. And paying $5,000 and $10,000 and $20,000 is an absolute horrifyingly bad idea. The information, even with 50 videos, is not valued anywhere near that. At best, $1,000 for small landlords per month, and consequently a little bit more for those that have large portfolios or have different plans as a landlord. I've enjoyed talking with you, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.